So describe an example of a typical project that you work on.
Yeah, so at Macmillan, as a publicity assistant, I handled a lot of the department stuff like processing invoice, mailing out books to media contacts, but I also had my own title list. So I had my own authors and books that I was assigned to and basically develop the media campaign for the book. So once I was assigned a book, and we work like 6 to 8 months in advance. So right now I'm looking at books and working on books that are coming out like in April of 2022. So that's kind of how far ahead we work. And we, depending if you have a marketer on the project, you work with a marketer in developing that campaign. But a lot of my books tended to be, just having a publicist. So I would look at the book, see the angles, start to come up with kind of my pitch for media outlets. For example, one of the books I had at Macmillan was I Dream of Popo, which was a picture book. It dealt with this little girl who was immigrating from Taiwan to the US. And this was a very personal story to the author and the illustrator because they had very similar experiences. So when developing my pitch, that's what I use. I use what they talked about and why they wrote the book, of course, also the book as well, and really like aimed it at, reached out to media that already covered books, but then other media like that specifically covered Asian American authors or news. So you really develop the plan as you go. But then also another part of the campaign is planning events. Prior to the pandemic, we did a ton of in-person events. Every author tended to have a local launch event. So we would arrange with their local bookstore to have their big event there. But now, during the pandemic and now kind of still sort of in the pandemic, we do a lot of virtual events. So we team up with bookstores now across the United States to host their authors, whether it's their launch event, panels. If we're sending an author on tour, we can we can sometimes team up with 5 to 6 bookstores across the author's launch month or even after to arrange this event. And it's just constantly going. Even when the book is published, you always keep the book in mind for more opportunities that come up. Like I Dream of Popo also dealt with the love between a grandchild and a grandparent. So when the holiday comes around or grandparents day came around, I would like repitch the book to media outlets, like say, hey, this book would be great if you're doing a roundup for gifts for your grandparents or to celebrate grandparents day. So the book is always in, you're always thinking about it, always looking for new opportunities, and obviously festivals that come up, pitching the author, pitching the book for them to be featured as well.
So quite a bit of moving parts. I mean, that sounds like
It's quite a bit. It was definitely a learning curve when I started. I did not expect as a publicity assistant at Macmillan to get my own title list. So that was a intense learning curve. But I had so many great mentors that helped me along the way. I'm still learning. I recently worked on at Macmillan with the book Ace of Spades that went on to land on the New York Times bestseller list, and that was a huge young adult novel that we had and that we worked with the advertising department, the marketing department, closely with the editorial group. So it each book has their own kind of plan and structure, but it's a learning curve. It's a learning curve always.
Make sure to check out the My Career tab on the BC Navigator app, where you can track your career progress based on the amount of credits you've earned, stay updated on upcoming events from the Magner Center, and watch our videos for insight and advice on your career field.